What's going on, YouTube family? Welcome to Automotive Life. My name is Lucky, and today we're going to be talking about the 3 reasons why dealerships are going to be going out of business in 2023. Now, I haven't posted a lot of videos because I've been currently moving, setting up the new studio, and working on my new dealership. But I wanted to take the time to post a video today on some current events that need to be talked about. Now, the reason why I wanted to rush this video out to you guys is because I've been getting a lot of emails and DMs of people sending me a lot of these new automotive YouTubers that are dealers that are sharing their information. Now, I think it's great that there's more dealers out there like myself that are willing to talk about the actual issues that are currently going on in the market. But as I watched a few of these channels, it was very bad. They were giving out some really bad information. They were doing very surface level information as far as what's currently going on in a dealership. But nonetheless, I think it's great that more people are getting out there. So if you are watching this channel and you are going to recopy some of the stuff I'm talking about, make sure that you give your own personal spin on it. Don't use my words verbatim because it definitely shows and you could find it out. But I think it's important to encourage other people and other people in the automotive industry to get into YouTube to talk about what's currently going on in this automotive market because things are changing rapidly. So without that further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video, and I wish all you guys best of luck, and let's get into it. So a few days ago, American Car Centers went out of business, which is very unfortunate, but the reason why is what's alarming me. It's something that has to do with one of the bigger issues, which we'll go into in a minute. But American Car Centers was a big dealership group. They had multiple dealerships in multiple states, had I think over 350 employees, and unfortunately they went out of business. Now, they did an initial bond offering where they were actually offering bonds to raise money against their loan portfolio so they can get more money to lend out to people. Unfortunately, when nobody was picking up their bonds, they decided to go ahead and call it quits and walk away. Now, I know a lot of people are shook and frustrated and, people lost their jobs. And there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh my God, what's going to happen to my car loan? I'm going to tell you right now, you have nothing to worry about. I buy and sell auto loans. Part of my job is to find companies like this that are distressed that want to sell their assets to other companies. So I already know that there's going to be several companies. I heard Westlake is already the first one with their hat in the ring doing collections. But if any type of auto loan portfolio happens where they're going to sell it, there's going to be another bank that's going to buy it and your payments are going to resume as normal. So just make sure that you keep track of anything you do with emails, texts, stuff like that, and then show this to your new borrower. Now, most of the borrowers are not going to really care. They're just going to say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you a 30, 45-day grace period. We're your new lien holder. You're going to get a phone call, maybe a letter in the mail. So make sure you check and look for that. So as far as people like crying and screaming, oh my God, my car is going to get repoed, it's not going to happen. Those loans are going to be sold off to another individual, which is going to start collecting on them. And trust me, they do not want the cars, especially at the loan values that they actually lent at. And so this is what's going to guarantee people that just purchased a car that they're good to go. Now, this is one of the reasons why it scares me, and this is the trend that I'm seeing in the market right now. One of the major things that's going to kill a lot of dealerships is lending. Now, traditionally, dealerships that do their own lending, stuff like American Car Centers, are usually guaranteed never to fail because you can never have a bad month. What do I mean by that? When you are your own bank, you finance your own deals. Now, this is a really great thing because, like I said, you can always put a person in a car, work the deal, and then you could sell the loan down the road if you ever need to draw capital. But there's one thing that they didn't plan on, and that's starting to get record high delinquencies. Remember, as more and more people, they're not able to afford their cars and they're slowly becoming delinquent on their payments. Now, we've hit a record high for 90 days. This current situation has peaked over the 2008 and 2012 numbers, so it's very, very alarming. But now what's happening is these companies that lend their own money to their own customers, so this way they can produce more loans and produce and sell more cars to guarantee their success, are now looking at an auto loan portfolio of, let's say it's worth $220 million. Maybe it's only really worth 180, maybe 200,000. Now, in your head, you're thinking, well, that's still a lot of money, Lucky. Why wouldn't they be able to just keep going? Your portfolio needs to show a certain amount of profit on every single deal, and you need to hit certain numbers for banks to give you more money to lend. Now, as these record high delinquencies start hitting the market and people are not paying their cars, it's making auto loans look worse and worse. And it's getting harder and harder for banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and some of these hedge funds to give these people money to actually lend out to other people. So what's happening now is that credit news we talked about in a lot of deals, it doesn't only matter to the consumer, it also matters to banks and dealerships, because if I can't get more money to lend to you, and my business practices is basically to lend out my own money to service my own loans, I'm going to be in very, very big trouble. And this is one of the biggest things that's scaring a lot of people, is because if the banks are not willing to basically give these dealerships and other banks money to fund more deals, how are people going to be financing these overpriced cars and these people with these very low down payments? And the simple answer is they're not going to. And this is where the credit crunch is going to get tighter, because everybody keeps freaking out about car prices and everything else. I'm telling you, that does not matter at all. None of that is going to matter, because as lending gets worse, it's going to get harder and harder to borrow money. Now, what do I mean by this? Every year, banks basically have to show their books and show their auto loan portfolio of what their delinquency rates, what their repo rates, and what their actual value of portfolio is. All these numbers play a factor into them borrowing money to give out and lend to other people. Now, if your delinquencies are up, your repos are up, and your portfolio value is down because vehicle values have dropped, why would they give you more money to lend if you're on a trajectory to go down? And this is what's going to cause, I call it the subprime market freeze. It's going to be about 2 years of dealerships, banks, and other lenders getting their books situated and getting a lot of that bad debt off, so eventually they can start lending again. How do they do this? They sell off some of their old paper. They get extremely conservative when it comes to lending out money to new people. And this is the very big problem. This is what I've been screaming from the hilltops for the last 2 years. When these banks get conservative, it's going to be just like 2009, 10, 11. None of these subprime banks are going to want to go out and give you any money. They're going to pull back, and they're going to hold out for only tier 1 customers, or if they have a big enough chunk down payment, they're not worried. We're talking 20, 30, 40% down. And I know a lot of traditional Americans do not have that, especially with costs of rent going up and everything else. It's simply a recipe for disaster. And this is why I am so scared, and I keep talking about this over and over again, because this is something to be really worried about. So when it comes to the automotive industry, and especially auto lending, it's very, how do I say it, convoluted. And so I get a lot of people always sending me statistics and sheets asking the questions, well, this doesn't make sense. A reporter recently reached out to me and asked, hey, look, I see delinquencies going up, but I've seen repo rates drop by 1%. Why is that? And I told him it doesn't make sense on paper, but what that means is that there's so much delinquencies that are going up, the banks are losing their ass when they repo that car and take it to the auction and have to eat that delinquency balance or that deficiency balance. They're actually working with people to extend payments and to give them more time to pay. Why would banks do this right now? Shouldn't they be worried about picking up their collateral? No. If their car is worth $60,000 and they owe $80,000 on the loan, it behooves the bank to try to work some sort of deal to get as many payments out of you as physically possible before they have to repo it. So that's why I believe that repos are going down right now, but delinquencies are going up, because they have to have some sort of counterbalance to balance this all out. We talked about a lot of these banks extending forbearance programs, kicking that can down the road further and further. And as long as they can show that they're working with the customer and they give them some sort of forbearance, their portfolio doesn't look as bad. They can show that the customer's on forbearance. It's in a static note. It's not in a delinquency factor. So if they have to sell their paper or do something else, it doesn't look as bad. They just put them to a different column. Now, this all sounds like bullshit, which it pretty much it is, but that's the way these banks work, is if they can do anything they can do to make their auto loan portfolio look like it's performing better, that's what they're going to do. So keep in mind that that's how bad the market is right now, that the banks are willing to lie for consumers because they're so upside down in their cars. I remember the one he showed me was a 2021 Toyota RAV4. They owed $79,000 on this thing. They bought it at the peak and they paid, I think it was $30,000 over MSRP. And I think they even put 20 grand down, I think 12 or 14% interest. So these are some of the deals that banks are currently holding right now, and it scares the hell out of them. So just get ready. That's, like I said, the first domino to fall. Let's get into reason number 2. So the second reason why dealerships are going to be going out of business in 2023 is because of franchise stores. Now, typically franchise stores only like to sell brand new cars or very low mileage, newer model cars. But during the pandemic, they couldn't get new cars, so a lot of the franchise agreements were kind of swayed. Franchisors allowed their companies to sell more of used cars to keep their doors open until the manufacturers can produce them more new cars to sell to their customers. So traditionally, every time they had a car that was maybe 5-6 years old, had 60 to 120,000 miles, they would just sell it at the auction, and independent dealers like myself would sell this car. Well, that was fine during the pandemic, but now they kept everything on the market. They were selling 200,000 mile trucks, anything they can do. And with the franchise store, they can sell stuff for 120, 130, 150, 160% LTV, where me as the independent, I can't finance that much amount. I have to have more down payment, more stipulations for employment, all that other stuff, where a lot of the franchise have agreements with banks where they can just push this crap through. So dealerships, franchise stores are making record profits selling used cars. So fast forward to 2023, you think that, okay, well, now the new cars are trickling in, things are going good. They're going to be getting rid of those old cheap cars and selling them off to independents, right? No, completely the opposite. They're making bigger grosses and bigger margins on the old used cars than they are on the new cars. Now, a lot of the dealers are starting to pull back their over MSRP prices. So remember the Broncos? You couldn't touch one of those for under $30,000, $40,000 over MSRP. I've seen dealerships sell them at MSRP and even some going below MSRP now. But when it comes to used cars, they still believe that hype of fear of missing out, that FOMO, that you got to get this car. We don't know when we're going to get another one. The market is dwindling. You need to buy these cars. And they're still selling these used cars at record profits. And this is the majority of the dealership's profit center is the used car market right now, which is blowing my mind. So now independent dealers like myself and people like American Car Center can't get vehicles cheap enough to sell to some of their consumers. Now, why is this such a big deal? Now, if I'm a used car dealer and I'm trying to get somebody with better credit, I need to have a lower mileage car with this maybe a little bit newer. So maybe like a 2018 or 19 with 60, 70,000 miles that I can get done in a credit union for single digit interest. Well, those things don't even happen anymore because now those dealers will keep them. And the only thing I'm getting is 120 to 150,000 mile 2018, 19, or 20. So what does this mean? Well, for me, I can just sell that car to a third tier bank and I don't have to worry about it because I sell it. But people like American Car Centers, now they're putting these high mileage cars into their auto loan portfolio. Now, if you have a car that's older, that has more miles, it's more likely to break down, which raises your risk of default. And so over the last 2 years, a lot of the deals that we've had that kind of fed us our gravy have been taken away. So now places like American Car Center, Drive Time, some of these other ones, they don't have those low mileage newer cars to keep putting in their portfolio to offset their risk. And each year, like I said, we're talking massive percentage points, pushing their default rates even higher and pushing their balance sheets even lower. So it's very important to understand that when you take all those used cars out of the market and the franchise stores keep them, it really does affect it. Now, we've been talking about independent dealers going out of business for months, even years, because they can't afford the flooring costs, which is our lines of credit. They can't afford to buy some of these new cars or used cars because they're competing with franchise stores that are multi-millionaires. So even if you're an independent store and I can have a $2 million line of credit, I'm competing against, like I said, multi-millionaires that just write checks. And then also, a lot of these independents can't afford their flooring lines. I can't say that enough because these dealers, I'm telling you guys that are watching this, if you have expensive cars, get them off your books. The market went up, yes, for tax season, but guess what? I guarantee you, as sales start to dwindle and things taper off, the demand is going to be dwindling and you're going to be stuck with even more overpriced stuff. It does this every tax season. I don't know why people are thinking that this tax season is going to be different, that it's going to be more amazing. Multiple news channels, Bloomberg, MSNP, CNN, ABC, Fox News, everybody's come out and said, no matter what position you are, left or right, all agree that the tax returns are going to be a lot less than what they normally are, and people are upset that they're not getting the returns that they want. What does that mean for the car business? Well, we're not going to get those big down payments we're hoping to get you out of your upside down vehicles. That's not going to give us the big down payments to push these upside down cars through financing, which we're also praying that the banks want to get big down payments so they can do the loans. So one by one, these banks are not going to get the loans they need to offset their portfolio with big down payments, and dealers are not going to be able to sell their cars because people just don't have the money. So all that's going to lead to basically dealers going out of business in 2023. Now, the third reason why, and this is the biggest reason why, besides finance, the dealerships are going to go out of business in 2023 is demand. Now, I see it all the time in my comment section. You guys, if you're reading this right now, please put in the comment section what city, state you're from, what you're looking for. We'll try to see if we can help you out, or even if you see stuff in your market, also share that. The demand is not there. You can see in my comment section, people are talking about like, I want to buy a new Maverick, or I want to buy a new this, or a used Toyota Sienna, whatever the case is, but they're currently waiting because, they want to wait for a better deal. Now, before, people would not wait for a month, 2 months because they were so worried because they saw prices going up. But now a lot of educated consumers are watching the prices go down. They're watching little by little, people start to offer more and more deals. I've also been currently car shopping, and I've seen dealers literally bullshit me saying, we want this price, we're firm on it, so I just leave them alone. Within 3 weeks, they dropped it $10,000 in sales price. So the market is completely changing. So don't believe the hype. The market is not as strong as what they say it is. Like I said, it's not we're going into a recession. We are already in a recession. The government keeps lying to people, and they're just kicking that can further down the road. Banks are not going to be lending. People can't afford these high prices. And like I said, a lot of educated consumers are just waiting. More and more I talk to people where they'll go into the dealer, they'll offer what they want to pay and not a penny more. And a lot of them are getting calls back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month later with the price reduction or the terms that they required or they wanted. And so more and more as these stories come out, it's starting to let people know that there are hopes and dreams in the market of prices going back to normal. But like I said, the only reason why dealers keep prices high is because it takes 10 people to say no, but one idiot to say yes to buy that overpriced car, and then that starts to process all over. Don't be a dum-dum. Don't be a bonehead. Do not overpay for a car. I promise you, friends, the prices are going down. The demand is not even a quarter of the way high. I talked to different banks all across the United States. Their application count, which is what we really determine on what the market is a third of what it was in 2021. People are just not going out there applying for cars anymore. They're taking their time. They're being patient. I've seen a lot of people actually walk away from getting a brand new car or an expensive used car and buy a $3,000 to $5,000 beater just to drive around. That's one of the things that I love to sell because I know that no matter what happens, people will never walk. They'll always need a car. Cheap, affordable cars are actually going up in price because people are deciding to walk away from why buying a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 car if it's going to be worth 10, 20, 30, 40% less in the next year. So they're just buying these cheap, affordable cars to kick that can further down the road. So hopefully in a year from now, when the interest rates stable out, the market's good, they can get the car that they truly want instead of settling for something that's overpriced and ridiculous. And I commend those people. And like I said, the whole thing of dealers having all this power that can control you and control the prices is absolute bullshit. Remember, the only thing that drives prices in our business is the consumer. If the consumer is willing to pay this price, they're going to sell it for this price. But if the consumer gets smart and stops overpaying for dumb shit, that price goes away. You can set the price that you want. You determine your market. So if you have any friends out there that are looking at buying an overpriced car, tell them just wait. Like I said, every month we see prices going down, especially now that banks are publicly announcing that they're having record high delinquencies, all this stuff that we talked about literally a year and a half to 2 years ago. It's so nice to see it in the news now, and it's hilarious. I got like 5 other news interviews I'm going to be doing here around the U.S., so make sure you watch CNN, Fox News, or CSNBC, and a few of these other ones. I think you guys are going to be very impressed because I'm very, very happy that this channel has been growing and we've been able to do the things that basically we've been able to do. It wouldn't be without you guys, which I truly appreciate it. When I started my niche, there was no niche for automotive, finance, business, and other related items. I was just kind of in my own little bubble. But now it's been great. And now, like I said, I have a bunch of people that are kind of, not, I wouldn't say copycatting, but doing something similar, sharing their opinions. But remember, share your opinions about the car industry. Don't share mine. Don't use my stuff verbatim. Please, it's very important. Share your knowledge. Even if you don't think it's that crazy or that in depth or it's surface level, it's always better to say your opinion than to plagiarize somebody else's. But anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you leave a comment down below if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Where do you think the market's going? Also, if you know any automotive YouTubers that are pretty cool, put them in the comment section below so this way we can all share information, because I believe that we can all learn from each other. And the whole purpose of this channel is to be transparent and share information about the automotive industry. And even if your opinion is different from mine, that's okay. We can still be friends, but I'd love to hear it in the comment section below. And once again, follow me on Instagram at Lucky Lopez, and we'll see you next time.